So here is a Tootsietoy, 1950, probably 55, 56, Packard Patrician. Just wanted to let you see how these beautiful little cars are made and the detail that goes into them. The Tootsietoy doesn't on the big cars like this one. It doesn't have an interior. It doesn't have a little motor. You can't open the hood and look in and see a little motor like you can on Hot Wheels, but they do have some surprising detail and the machining and the architecture that goes into this, the design. But this is what we have. And it is a mess. And it is covered over with paint and gunk. And there's a broken wheel and it's bent. And, you know, this is what it's supposed to look like. This is the real one. This is probably the most beautiful one I could find. It's the 56 version. This could be 56. You see the cathedral tail lights, all the chrome. The headlights here, you get to see that black around them that made them look sort of deeper. That was a 1956 innovation. Here's a 55 version, closer to what we have here. Lots of chrome, lots of stainless steel, those beautiful cathedral lights in the back. And here you can see why they called cathedral lights. But first I've got to inspect this thing, and it's got a lot going on here. That front left quarter panel, the whole front end there, the car was dropped or stepped on, and this wheel was broken off. We'll fix that. Try to save as much of the original stuff as I can. I usually do. And here I'm using my dentist tool, and I'm using all kinds of things to try to get the gunk off of it, trying to avoid using chemicals. That's a brass brush. And we're going to give it a bath, but it doesn't make any difference. I had helped a little bit, but it didn't help enough to where we could actually start. So we're going to remove the wheels and axles, and here what you want to do is you want to get a leverage point, and the little car is not a good leverage point. So you want to put a little piece of metal there. Here I use a putty knife. And it gives you just a little, you don't need much. And that allows you to pry out those axles, which are just nails, really. And these people just taking these normal nails and making these cars back in the 1950s, but all the way back into the 40s and 30s and 20s, and lots of detail here, lovely detail. Even the Packard name on the trunk, on the boot of the car. So I'm taking this dental tool and just trying to get the gunk out of the lines of the car, because that really makes a difference once you start to paint. And here I'm going to really crank on this thing, is this damage here. And I try to hammer it out. And that works, kind of works, but not really. And so I try to take some pliers and pull it out. And that it helped a little bit, but it also started to tear the metal. That's not so good. So then I went for bigger pliers than this, because. And again, it helped a little bit. But if anybody has advice on how to get that out, it's so intricate there. The molding is so intricate. There's so much metal there. But in the end, I had to use chemicals. And here I'm taking them off. And these gloves are a lifesaver. I'm wearing them more and more. Really handy. So I'm back with my dental tools. Using them sounds just like it looks. So if you're traumatized by the dentist, this is not the tool for you. Just getting all these little places where you've got gunk that is dried or kind of hiding in there. And again, that shows up once you start painting it, and just taking some steel wool and making it all smooth. Even thought about doing a car just like this, just getting it up to a high shine and then just leaving it like that. And just spraying some transparent spray on it and going from there. I haven't done it yet. So there's a little piece there of metal that broke off. And take some epoxy. I should have used metal putty here, really. I'm not really sure why I didn't do that. But this epoxy here is also good for metal, so it'll stick on there. Maybe the metal putty is actually a little bit brittle. And that worked pretty well. Later I'll have to put some more of that epoxy on the roof because that's one of the roof pillars actually was cracked, and I only saw that very late. So we want to clean up the axles a little bit, the nails. Here I got a brass brush. Later when I put them back on, I'll use some WD-40 just to lubricate them and put some oil on them. This was the wrong approach for these tires. I thought I would spray them. I fixed the one tire with epoxy. I sprayed them, and I was going to put white walls on them because every one of these cars has white walls, and that didn't work well. Here I'm filing down some of the casting errors. There weren't too many on this car, but some of them were sticking up, and it looked pretty bad. It looked pretty ratty around some of the edges. But those white walls did not work out. And if you know anything about the wheels on Tootsietoys, they all look like, they belong on a Willys Jeep. And that doesn't work out very well when you're trying to, put some kind of white wall on there. It didn't work, so I had to just go back to black wheels. Well, there she is. And there's putting the white walls. I got a white pen and spent quite some time in a cold garage messing with this. It wasn't a success, and filming it wasn't a success either. So that's all you get of it. And here we got to mask it off, and they didn't mask these things. Tootsie Toys weren't masked off. They were just kind of sprayed, just kind of carefully sprayed. And so they're on all the originals. There's all this overspray on them. That's actually how they're supposed to be. But I can't leave it alone. So we're going to give this thing a nice little paint job. And it's going to take, quite a little while to get all the tape on there and to cut it just right. But it's worth it. It's really worth it. One tip here, using those gloves, those orange gloves like this, doesn't really work with tape. Once it starts sticking to it, then it's really stuck, and it just is a pain. So doing that with your bare hands is better. So here I'm going to give it a green, a kind of 1950s green. This wasn't quite the right green, but I went and got another green, and here's the green that it ended up as. Little bit of that 1950s, 1960s. My grandfather had a truck, a Chevrolet pickup truck that was about that color, maybe a little lighter. And now, of course, you've got to mask off all the stuff you just painted. So we're making this a two-tone. We're going to make it that green, that sort of 50s and 60s green, and a cream and off-white roof and sideboards. And of course, there's tons and tons of chrome and stainless steel, so that'll be on the front and the back bumpers mainly. So a few coats of that. Holding my breath here, setting it down, cleaning out the can, and then running away and letting the garage defume itself. So here we go. We're going to take off the tape, and all of a sudden you can see, wow, that's looking kind of nice. Those black pens in front of me there are the chrome pens, so we're going to get that chrome out. I'm going to move away from chrome pens. I'm going to get the same stuff, but like in a little pot, like in a little jar, and put it on with a paintbrush. I think that's going to be the way to go in the future. The shaking these pens and trying to make them work is problematic. Although I'm glad to have them. And here goes the chrome on there. And sometimes it goes on and it looks just like a mirror. And other times it goes on and it just looks like silver paint. So this whole front end is chrome. And here we're doing the door handles. That's a fiddly little thing. It's not hard, but one wrong move. So I had to come back and I had to touch up some of the chrome. Again, this is why I think I'm going to go over to a fine brush. Here I'm also putting on the tail lights, those cathedral tail lights. I just used a pen, a Sharpie for this, and that worked really well. Could have used paint, would have been fine too, but the Sharpie worked well. It was quick, easy, no cleanup. Yeah, there we go. Maybe a little bit more touch up there. Make sure you get all that chrome. It's easy to miss a spot because of the paint under there. Here I just have to say, all right, the white walls are not going to work. They just won't work. Maybe if I had a decal or something like that I could put on there, but no. So back to the chemicals, and we take off the white walls, which is too bad. That really would have made it nice. But it's all of these extra details I put on Tootsietoys are a little bit, and they're all kind of a bridge too far. That's not how they were made. So we get some final touch-ups and fixes here. Made some mistakes on the taping, just wasn't quite careful enough. Here's where I found the crack on the roof pillar. So I'm just putting on the inside, just putting a little bit of this epoxy, and it'll just stabilize it. Not that it wasn't stable already, it was okay, but you could see that there was a crack. So stabilize it up, make it a little bit more robust. Here we get a transparent coat on here just to protect it. And the idea is that maybe someday some little kid plays with this and they destroy it, and then I get to do it again. So here we come in with the wheels and the axles. You got to make sure that you get the right hollow axles. See those little tubes there? That's what the nails go into, those little tubes. But you got to get the right tube on there, because the one for the front and the one for the back are totally different. So here I am trying to get it on there and put a little WD-40 and make it all a little bit easier, and doggone it if I didn't get the wrong one on there. So I got to take it out. It's kind of an intelligence test. So you put the right one on, get the other side on there, taking these pliers and kind of crushing that nail in there. There's probably a better way to do this. I'm always afraid it's going to slip at some point, and I'm just going to smash the car or scratch the paint. But I got away with it. We're going to go with the front axle. I mean, we're almost done. That goes on fine. And here we put a little chrome on the ends there just to pretty it up a little bit. I had done that already, but of course, all this work on it just rips that off. And here's what you get. It's a nice looking car. The front end there is still a little bit beaten up, but it looks a lot better than it did. Sorry for the green screen. I was going to make this really beautiful. And taking out the green screen meant that you took out the green car as well. Another intelligence test I failed. But look at that nice. And right above the logo there, you can see the Packard maybe. If I was a little bit more skilled, I might have tried to make that chrome as well. Beautiful. Certainly compared to where we started at this piece of junk, really. And we end up with this. Really fun to do. Really fun to do. And a beautiful car in real life as well. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch it. And until next time.